This is Bruce the Blog for PennySaver Community TV with Tom DeChiaro, of course, who is owner of the Winery at St. George in Yorktown, and who has just announced earlier today, June 1, that he will primary the Republican candidates for town board. And so, Tom, why is it that you do want to challenge the Republican endorsed candidates for Yorktown Town Board?
Well, Bruce, as you and I have discussed many times, my whole reason for running is to try to bring some change and innovative thinking to the town. We've got very high taxes. We need to come up with creative ways to take the burden away from the homeowner and give it, more to some businesses that we need to draw. We have a very bad reputation as a town for anyone trying to do any development here, whether it's a homeowner or a business, and we really need to change that.
And I think a lot of people are aware of your long battle, you might say, to have the winery officially open. So today is June 1. When is your estimate as to when you will be officially open for business, even though you have been operating, several days a week as it is?
Well, hopefully sooner versus later. Right now, we're in the process of navigating through some building code, I'll call them items that we're not 100% sure how we have to solve. The sprinkler systems being one, where we're working with both the Historical Society and the State Building Department to figure out how we can, if we do need to install sprinkler systems, how do we do it in a way where we don't take away from the ceiling. So we want to just take a little bit of extra time and make sure that we do that right. The rest of the stuff, handicap lift, some stuff in the kitchen, is progressing nicely. So my guess is within the next 60 to 90 days we should be through all this. We waited this long, so a few more months won't kill us.
So maybe by September, for example, and actually September 13th is the date of the primary, right? That you're going to be challenging the other Republican candidates.
Yeah, that's correct. So it would be kind of an omen there, right? If we got our approval either prior to or shortly next to the primary date.
Right. Now, as you know, Tom, I've written a lot on my blog about you, and some people in Yorktown have said to me, why am I glorifying what you've done in your proverbial battle against the town? Because, their point of view is that you could have done things differently. And so the question then becomes for you is, if you had to do it over again, would you have done it differently?
Well, this is a really interesting question, and I'll try to answer it as simply as I can. When I first approached the town after I bought this building, I got a lot of real resistance up front. They wouldn't even meet with me. They wouldn't come and look at the building and hear about what my plans were, and that raised a lot of suspicion. And so, even though of course, we all would have hoped that things would have happened differently, they went through their course based on the actions that occurred. And so when you invite the town board to come and look at your project and give you some feedback on what you're looking to do and they refuse to come, that sends a message to you that they're not interested in working with you. And so we went down a path that we thought was the only way possible to really get their attention with all the litigation and whatnot. But that's behind us now, and I don't really think you glorify me. I think what you're doing is you're telling a story about a struggle that no one should go through to open a business, especially a business like this, which has received an enormous amount of public support. It's not the type of business where we have a rowdy group of people attending. It's very, very nice, upscale, and people enjoy themselves at every age level. So in that regard, it's really sad we had to go through the time and energy and all of a waste of money to get to where we are. But let's put that behind us and move forward. And that's one of the reasons why I want to run, because I feel that there are so many things I learned in terms of how the town operates that I think we can change. And I think I'm a voice that's different than what's been there in the past, and hopefully we can bring some excitement and some innovation here.
And without dwelling on it, I just want to, I know we want to put this to rest, at least for now, even though I'm sure it will come up again in the campaign going forward. The other point of view, which I just want to give some, balance to and some equal time, is that there was some paperwork, right, that they say you should have filed at a certain point and you didn't, and so, what about that part of it? That was the question I was asking about if you had to do it over again.
Well,
there was certain paperwork that I guess you could have filed on time that you didn't, right?
Well, that's that I can answer that question, from a different point of view. When I first was, approached the town about what I wanted to do, they told me that I would never be able to open under the guise of what I'd like to do. So,
and by the way, why don't you? I think it would be helpful, Tom. What year was that? In other words, currently, as we're talking, the town supervisor is Susan Siegel. At the time, the town supervisor was.
At the beginning, it was Linda Cooper.
Oh, okay. So it goes back three. It spans three administrations.
It spans three administrations. So what had happened was, because they were so against, or were not even willing to talk about an option for the building, that I found a creative way of incorporating an agricultural-based business, which legally would fit within the town construct. So we weren't looking for, contrary to what some people try to say, is we weren't looking for agricultural tax exemptions. We were trying to fit an agricultural-based business into a zoning model that the town had on the books that would have worked very nicely. And I went to the town and was very open about what we were doing there. And then and that was sort of a mistake at that time, because once I did tell them what I thought was a good model here, then they went to the county and sort of interfered with that whole agricultural process. Because remember, I spent an enormous amount of money planting grapes over in Hilltop Farm in an arrangement with the county, which was based on the idea we were going to process grapes here, and we were going to do a winery wine bar, and it all fit in the agricultural model. Remember, this was not a tax. This was not a tax exemption. This was just to fit within the local ordinance, which was on the books. And once we got into what I'll call a rat hole here, because what happened is once they realized that I could open under that premise, they stopped it at the county level, which is, again, the premise for the lawsuit. But it wasn't because I wasn't trying to fill out applications. That was the only model that I had at the time. They didn't become receptive to this, what I'll call special use permit, until way later on.
Right, okay. And let's fast forward now to talk about the 2011 campaign. Some of the council candidates, as you and I were talking about a little while ago, have talked about signing a pledge to campaign without personal attacks. There has been talk of certain council candidates in Yorktown saying they won't put up signs. Where do you stand on that?
Well, I think the whole personal attack thing is a great pledge, and I'd be more than willing to sign a pledge against personal attacks. We really need to focus on the issues at hand, which is the economic viability of our community. So from a pledge perspective, I'd be more than happy to sign that. As it relates to signs, and the incumbents sort of have a little bit of an advantage here, and it's somewhat self-serving, just to be frank, because they have more name recognition than any of the newer candidates. And so signs are a way for us to get our name out to the general public. So I'm not willing to sign a pledge about signs, but I'd be more than happy to sign a pledge about a very respectful campaign that focuses on issues.
And what are your plans for putting up signs? Can you fill us in on that?
Well, just like we had in the last election in 2009, we plan on using signs as part of our campaign. We plan on using every resource available to us for our campaign. Palm cards, meeting people, going door to door, making phone calls, having meet and greet sessions, and signs. They're all part of an overall campaign strategy. And we're just not going to leave that part out.
Right. Now, as a business owner in Yorktown, and I would say it's fair to say a high-profile business owner, do you feel that you're running, you're running as a Republican? So that's a partisan position, obviously, by definition. Do you feel that could have any kind of effect on your business at the winery?
Well, no, because I don't really think party affiliation, to some extent, in a local election really has the same significance as it does in a national election. But I'm a registered Republican, so my only option from a primary perspective is to run a primary on the Republican ticket. I am not gearing my election, my campaign, or my message to just Republicans. I am reaching out to everybody, whether they're independent, Democrats, conservatives, and the like, because the message that I have, I believe, resonates well with all of them. And the problem we have in this town is that our property taxes are way too high, and we haven't come out with creative ways to solve them. And what I mean by creative ways is that, yes, we have budget problems. You don't solve those problems by raising taxes. You solve those problems by finding other revenue sources. And we've done a terrible job as a town at doing that.
And do you feel that if you were elected as a councilman in Yorktown, that you could have an immediate effect on property taxes? I mean, is that really practical?
Well, I like to think we can. It all depends on what the ultimate makeup of the board is at the end of the November election. What I'd like to do is be able to interject and engage them into dialogue and discussions about some ideas I have on how we can do this. We have an enormous amount of property that's been taken off the tax rolls that I think we can get back on the tax rolls. Properties that have deteriorated that the town has taken over, some excess parkland that we have that might be used for a way of stimulating the economic growth. We have a lot of empty storefronts, so we can be real creative. I mean, the biggest challenge we're going to have is how do we change the reputation of the town from being so anti-business? I mean, I can't tell you how many people have said they won't do business in Yorktown because it's so difficult to get anything done. And we have to change that. And the way we change that is we have to sort of re-engineer how we process applications, and we have to become more customer friendly or more customer focused in the way we deal with applications.
Now, when recently the Yorktown Republican Town Committee, as it's called, had their nominating process, they chose at the top of the ticket the incumbent Susan Siegel to run again for supervisor, and then for town board the long-time incumbent Nick Bianco, as well as Dave Paganelli of Travelers Rest, as their candidates for the town board seats, the two town board seats that are open. So I think a question somebody largely would be asking, since you are now saying you're going to primary them, is why did you choose not to go through that process?
Well, I did have dialogue with the Republican Party, the Yorktown Republican Party specifically, early in the game, back in, I believe it was February. And I expressed the desire to see some, what I'll call, new, energetic, exciting candidates. And I made I trusted the Republican Party to come up with a good ticket. I was a bit disappointed in the selection process and what they came up with. And I don't think it's a surprise to them that I decided to primary, given the slate that they selected. So even though I didn't go through the process, I was above board and up front with them.
And if, let's say, if you don't prevail in this case, in this run, are you intent on running again in the future for whether it's town board or for another elected office?
I am really just so focused on this election. I can't think beyond it. I have no intentions of going in this with an idea that I'm going to lose, although that's certainly a possibility. I'll be the first one to call the other candidates on the phone and congratulate them if they beat me. But I think I have a strong message, and I'm looking forward to debating the other candidates. Let's not forget Ed Schifone, who's in the mix here. And having the four of us stand up there and face questions by the media about where we stand on issues that are important to people who live in Yorktown. And let's make the people decide which candidates do they want to represent them.
And Tom, how would somebody find out more information about your campaign?
We have a website up right now which is being updated daily. It's called tomforyorktown.org.
And that's TOM, the numeral 4.
Numeral 4 for Yorktown.org.
.org, right.
You could spell for F-O-R as well. So it's
and it would get you to the same place? Yeah. All right. Okay, thanks very much, Tom, for your time. We've been talking with Tom DeChiaro, owner of the Winery, and now a self-declared candidate who will be primarying the Republican endorsed candidates for Yorktown Town Board. And this is Bruce the Blog for PennySaver Community TV. Thanks again, Tom.
Thanks, Bruce.